Sean and Justin made it. Theme was previously stated. About to start, so glad I waited. Somehow related.
Hello, friends. You're listening to Somehow Related. I'm Sean.
I'm Justin. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Yeah, it's good to see you again, dude.
Yeah, well, I see you all the time.
And then we're also joined by a special guest, Colby Sollars.
You can talk now.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, you're allowed to speak.
I know we told you to not speak.
You did tell
But
me
now-
not to speak until it was my turn.
We said, you could be on the podcast, you just have to be quiet the whole time.
You
Well, that's kind of what I'm going to try to do.
you can be a visual presence on the podcast.
You could be taking notes.
You just have me be silent, but put my picture on it.
Yeah,
You're here for the visual
in the corner though.
A very special guest. And then you don't even say anything.
What's up, Colby?
Not much.
Great.
I was just invited to be on your podcast, so I came over.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Well, I think you're our first guest.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when the entire listening audience is invited to be on a podcast, you don't say no.
It's a very special,
You're not really wrong.
special occasion. Not a lot of podcasts can have their whole audience on.
You might be one of the only people that's heard all 6 episodes.
You listen to the commentary?
That's the one, and the next one after that I didn't listen
Oh,
to.
okay, never mind. So you're
okay,
not.
Never mind.
No, I didn't do the commentary, and I didn't do the Yuba one.
Oh, well,
You
that's
didn't do
a
the
shame.
Yuba one.
The Yuba one, I
Not
think, is
yet.
pretty cool.
That's the one that's somehow related to this one.
I know.
We should listen to Yuba County on the podcast, and then next
So
time
the
do
first
actual
half of this
episode.
podcast will be us listening to the previous episode.
Through headphones, yeah.
And it's me going, shh, listen to this part. It's really creepy.
No one was talking. Shh.
Quiet. Did you get that? I'm gonna go back 10 seconds.
Well, Justin, last time we talked about the Yuba 5
Right.
disappearance. And so I was thinking we would talk about a different disappearance that you name dropped on
Yeah.
that episode.
I know we alternate who gets to pick the topic for the next episode, but I really steered the ship on that one.
Yeah, that's fine, man. So this is going to be the Dyatlov Pass Incident.
Which is oftentimes by me called the Russian Yuba County 5.
Yeah, and by other people called the Russian JFK assassination, even though there's no real assassination involved. But
Or is there?
in terms of just like the cultural zeitgeist of infamous mysteries, the Soviet Union had the Dyatlov Pass Incident, while Americans had the JFK incident.
And people are like, it's weird and ominous, and no one knows what happened. Or do they? Who knows? I don't know. A lot of theories. Have you heard about this, Colby?
No, I was only told about the title of it from you, and then you kind of told me not to look into it because the less I know, the better. So.
I did say that.
We want your authentic reactions.
I did roleplay as the Soviet government and told you the less you know, the better.
Yeah, like I had my fingers poised on the keyboard to be Googling it, and then you told me not to.
Don't do that.
Well, I'm glad. Hopefully it pays off. So let's just get into it. I've got a sort of an outline written out here. So, like I said, to Americans in general, Dyatlov Pass probably doesn't have a lot of meaning, but to anyone who lives in the former Soviet Union or was old enough to live in the contemporary Soviet Union, it's a big deal. So what is it? Let's talk about it. At a glance, the Dyatlov Pass incident refers to the death of 9 Soviet hikers on either February 1st or February 2nd, 1959, in the northern Ural Mountains. Now, unfortunately, hikers die with frequency, kind of. So why exactly was this incident enough to spark the interest of an entire nation for generations? Well,
Because one of them was JFK.
one of them was JFK. Well,
They were all JFK.
They were the 9 segments of JFK's being.
It was kind of a Captain Planet situation where when they combine their powers, they get a big JFK.
Not a lot of people realize that JFK was 9 Russian 20-something in a trench coat.
I actually always suspected that.
If you look at the Zapruder film carefully, you can see it.
Anyway, but so to get into that, we need to first understand the people involved. And I put kind of a lot of energy into describing originally 10, but ultimately 9 hikers.
Well, ultimately 0.
Ultimately 0, but the 9 people involved in the incident.
Because they died.
But why did you say 10?
Oh, we'll get to that.
We'll get there.
Oh, it's a
Okay.
wild winding road.
I feel like you guys know about this, and I'm just being educated in the weirdest
basically
way
it.
possible.
You're like, I can't tell when you're joking and when it actually is true. Were they all
Were they all
JFK?
JFK? Were they all John Fitzgerald Kennedy? Yeah, so... Yeah, okay. What was I saying?
You're talking about the 10 of them.
Yeah.
I
So,
thought it was 9.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay, all right, I'll shut up.
yes, please
Follow
don't
my-
speak for the rest of the episode.
Follow my initial advice.
This has already been a bad idea. Please stop talking.
I think you should just go.
That's actually what this podcast is now. We just invite someone on.
Shame them.
We troll them until they
Confuse
leave.
them.
We gaslight them until they leave.
Okay, yeah, I'll just get into describing these folks. So the first one that I have down... I should say they were all either students or graduates of Ural Polytechnical Institute, UPI,
So they were students, college students.
or graduates,
Whoa.
like fresh graduates. Almost all of them majored in some kind of engineering, and were all very experienced, which I'm going to go over in each description. So, first up is Igor Dyatlov. Yeah. Sound familiar?
The name of the pass.
Exactly. Yeah. Now it's the name of the pass.
Yeah. Foreshadowing.
Quick question. Did you say what year this is?
1959.
Okay.
Yep. So the leader of the expedition, and only freshly 23 years old at the time of the incident, a radio engineering student, and by all accounts, a talented engineer. As a kid, Igor had an older brother who attended UPI and would often tag along on UPI hikes with him, once bringing along a portable radio that he designed and built himself when he was only about 15. Dyatlov's personality, as described by contemporary accounts, is marked with intelligence, competence, charisma, and affability. In short, it was no surprise that Dyatlov was the leader of this expedition. He seemed to have been born a natural leader, and also was among the most experienced hikers of the group.
Yeah, so he's a really smart guy. He really has his wits about him. And I don't know if you're going to talk about the...
The horses?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about the horses, Justin.
Okay. So I heard on another podcast that he really he was kind of an unshakable person. He really had his wits about him, like I said. Like, there was an incident where I think it was another hiking expedition or something where their party found themselves in the path of a stampeding herd of horses. I don't know what you call a group of horses, a gang of horses, and
Flock, I think.
probably a flock, yeah, or a murder of
Pod of
horses.
horses.
And he, rather than panicking and running, he told everyone just to hold their ground, and the horses just ran around everybody. And
Yeah, they
so,
just stood back to back in a group.
yeah, and that just illustrates, so like sometimes, tragedies happen because because the person at the head of it, is easily shaken or something, or they're not very competent. But that wasn't not Igor at all.
Yeah, this isn't like the UPA-5 in which you had 5 people who were not experienced in what they were doing. It doesn't make any. It doesn't, to the point. It doesn't even make any sense why they were even there.
Right.
And I should also probably say this now, which is, whenever you think of hikers like today, especially here in the U.S., like it's kind of a hobby.
There's a path, and you follow it, and
Yeah.
maybe a blimpie at the top.
And even like, if you do backcountry stuff, like it's still, you're doing it for fun. You're doing it for as a hobby. In the USSR at the time, so say you're a professional baseball player today, and you've been playing baseball, you grew up doing it. You joined Little League usually, and then when you got to be like 18 or whatever, you join an A league to a double A league to a triple A, whatever. Is it triple A is the lowest? Or triple A is the highest? Whatever. You work up the leagues. There's federations that are nationwide, and you work up, which is why you can look up official stats for athletes, because those are logged games with those federations. The USSR had the same thing with sports, but because it was the Soviet Union, it's a communist state, that's part of the state. It's not an independent thing. So hiking or skiing or trekking, whatever their word for it was, these expeditions, that was a sport. Like you could almost be like a professional, and you could have officially logged expeditions and treks with the sport department or whatever, the Treasury of Sports.
But it was a state-run thing?
It was a state-run thing, yeah. So
they want to know who their most physically capable people are.
I guess so. And so you could have a grade 1, 2, or 3 as... I couldn't find the official word for it. I'm going to say a hiker. There was probably a better word for it, more descriptive for what they were doing, but I'm just going to say hiker. You could achieve class 1, 2, or 3, with 3 being the highest level of experience. There was also something called a Master of Sport, which basically meant you were like a nationally ranked champion in your sport, which you could achieve with hiking.
In this case, in hiking.
Yes.
Is there like an equivalent structure like that now?
I couldn't find anything. Maybe in Russia, but there's certainly nothing like that in the U.S.
Once the Cold War ended, they were like, what's the point? We don't care.
So all of these people were doing this hike in order to achieve their class 3 certification in hiking.
So they want to be the very best like no one ever was.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And they were all doing this through the UPI Sport Club, UPI being the college that they were either attending at the time or had freshly graduated.
Right.
Which is the sport club that they did it through. So, when I say they have logged UPI hikes, that's what I'm talking about, like official logged hikes for that federation.
Okay.
Let me see here. At the time of the incident, Igor had logged 9 UPI hikes ranging in difficulty from category 1 to 3, 3 being the most difficult. And then I'll note, these people all certainly had way more hikes than that done. It was just official logged hikes. If,
right.
I mean, like, hikes that you and I would do would likely not even reach category 1 for these.
Speak for yourself, man.
Well, I don't know.
Hikes that Justin and I do would likely not reach even category 1 hikes.
I don't know. I've walked some pretty flat trails. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, like casual, even like casual backpacking, over like things that just last like a weekend, like that would not be considered a loggable hike.
Okay.
How long does that have to be loggable?
I don't know if it's like a time requirement. I think it's more a distance requirement, which I also couldn't find, but these were things that you couldn't really just do in a weekend.
Okay.
Next up is and also remember you referred to all of them by their last names in Yuba 5?
Yeah.
These are all Russians and I can't say their last names, so I'm going to be using their first names and where possible their nicknames.
Okay, we're going to flip it.
So Zenaida Kolmogorova.
We should just give them names of celebrities. So
So we can
Zendaya.
remember that.
Zendaya. Her nickname being Xena. 21-year-old fifth-year student in radio engineering. Both Xena's parents were disabled, although I can't really find a lot of detail on that.
On how they were disabled?
Yeah. It seemed like her dad was disabled in an accident, and then I couldn't find anything with her mom. Xena is described as a popular girl with a magnetic personality, without her popularity going to her head. Outgoing and energetic, other students described her as, quote, the engine of the university, unquote.
I thought you were going to say engine of the universe. That's like,
Oh my god.
that's quite a compliment.
She's really likable. She propels the universe.
Her hugs contain the power of the sun.
The tide would stop if we didn't have her. Also an experienced hiker with Category 2 hikes. She was once bitten by a viper on one of her hikes. Despite the pain, she refused to lighten her load, knowing that if she did, then the others would have to carry it. She and Igor shared a close friendship, always being seen together, though if there were any romantic feelings on either end, they kept it concealed from anyone around them. So it seemed like they were just good friends.
I think that last line is just trying to sow some more like mystery and intrigue. They might have been really romantically involved, but there was no evidence to support that.
They were just around each other.
If so, it must have been very secretive.
Next up is Yuri Droshenko, a 21-year-old fourth-year radio engineering student at UPI. Yuri is described as having, quote, an impulsive personality, unquote. Also, there's 3 Yuris. This is the only one that I'm going to refer to as Yuri.
Yeah, okay.
Yuri
Yeah,
D.
okay.
Yuri D.
Yuri D.
Yep. Yuri and Xena, the last girl we just talked about, had previously shared a romantic relationship, which started on another trek in eastern Seine. Shy and reserved, Yuri barely spoke to Xena until one day while she was setting up her tent.
Even when they were together.
While she was setting up her tent, she noticed a brown bear approaching her. She let out a yell, as I probably also would, which prompted Yuri to charge the bear armed with nothing but a geologist's hammer, as I definitely would not have.
Aren't those like tiny?
I can't imagine they're that big.
Because don't they have to like just use them to like get samples and stuff?
I don't know. I'm picturing one. I mean, it would do damage to a human, I think. Maybe not a brown bear.
Or am I thinking
Yeah.
of like a paleontologist hammer?
I mean, even if I had a sledgehammer, I don't know if I would
Yeah.
charge a bear.
I'm pretty sure any kind of hammer wouldn't really work on a bear.
Are you looking
brown
up
bear.
a geologist hammer?
Yeah.
You're,
Okay.
you're googling, can you kill a bear with a geologist hammer?
I've been googling a lot of things. For instance, my other tab here I have open is from AmazingHorseFacts.com, and I'm trying to find out what a group of horses is called.
Nobody knows. They won't tell us.
There's a lot of different.
Horses are secretive.
It depends on the composition of the group of horses. In any case, this is what a
Wait,
geologist
it
hammer
depends.
looks like. Well, for instance, if it's a group of male horses for breeding, it's called a stud of horses.
Huh.
If it's
What if it's like 3 males
usually
and 2 males?
made up of colts, it's a rag. In any case, I didn't mean to.
A rag.
No, it's fine. A rag of horses.
That's just complicating things.
Yeah, why do
There's
they need so
there's many
different-
other terms here on AmazingHorseFacts.com.
I'm not sure those are amazing facts. It's a bit generous.
We're not sponsored by AmazingHorseFacts.com. Just want to make sure everyone knows.
Not yet.
Use promo code somehow related to get 10% off your
15%
next
off your
question.
Amazing Horse Facts.
Half off your next rag.
Not applicable for studs. All right, so
Speaking of horses, we're gonna have to someday go into how we decided we were going to spend that challenge of how do you spend like
Oh, yeah,
$200
that's
million
right.
without
buying
any
a
evidence.
horse?
No, how do, like the
you
challenge
can't buy a
was
single horse.
how do you spend like $200 or $250 million in a year without any evidence at the end of a year?
Without any evidence of you ever having spent the
Yeah.
money or
Yeah,
having had
so
the money.
like you can't buy things that you now own.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't take anything with
like-
you after the
like-
year's over.
You have to like basically like
Or
have
sell things.
The classic, you did a big heist, but you can't have it be known that you have that much money, right?
kind of, yeah. Well, in this case, you have to spend it.
You
In a
have to
year.
spend
You
it, but it
spend
has
in
to
a
not
year.
be detectable.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and we figured it out, and it involves a lot of horses.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right, so
Cannot wait to hear about this.
we might as well clarify. We basically we like calculated the cost of what it would take to lobby Congress to pass a law that like you have to euthanize your horse. Everyone in the country has to euthanize their horse, and then pay for it. The government has
And
to pay
then-
for it, which we would fund out of pocket.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we would fund the euthanization of
Every horse in the
all
country.
the horses in the country.
But you do that by paying for lobbying.
Yes.
It's not an asset, yeah.
Yeah.
You've given me a lot to think
Which
about.
most people would say like, oh, I would stay in the best hotels and whatever, but like,
Yeah.
that
But you
doesn't
guys
go
are
as
like,
far as you
no,
think.
I want to see every horse dead.
I mean,
Well, we were just
we
trying
could
to
do
desperately.
that too, but it seems that it actually is like if you do that, it's kind of a drop in the bucket, like staying in all the best hotels and
Yeah, it's not going
in
to
a
get you
year.
that far.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Not that euthanizing horses is funny, in case someone's offended by that. But just that's how we would spend the money. We would
we
lobby
figured it out.
Congress and put all horses down.
so you better hope we don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we charged the bear with the geologist hammer. We'll never know if Yuri could actually defeat a bear in armed combat because apparently the sight of the crazed Russian with a hammer is enough to scare a bear away. Xena apparently was very into it and they started dating. By the time of the incident, they had broken up, but evidently the situation was still a bit complicated. Shortly before the incident, Xena wrote to a friend telling her that Yuri would be coming on the expedition as well. Quote, I really don't know how I'll feel. I am treating him like anyone else, but it's really hard because we're together and yet we're not together. Unquote.
But in
So, like,
Russian.
But in Russian, yes.
But in-
She said, she wrote that sentence in English and the rest of it. Just in case anyone wants to know. So just college drama,
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those things.
And a hammer.
And a hammer.
Her relationship status was it's complicated.
Yes. Yes. If she had Facebook.
She was initially attracted to his great rage at running at a brown bear with a hammer.
His rage and just
And
insanity.
somehow they ran into issues.
Yeah, he found that difficult to sustain.
Yeah.
I
He's
know
like,
nothing about him other than
she's real
he's
freak,
just crazy.
That's all she wants. Insanity and rage.
That's the rage of a level 3 hiker.
What else can you scare away?
Category 3 rage. It's achieved Master of Rage in the USSR. That had to be a real thing that you could get.
Yeah,
in the
sure.
Soviet Union, Master of Rage.
Hey, do you want to like go like dinner and see a movie? I don't know. Actually, would you rather like go like I don't know, catch an eagle and fly on a stork and
Just
kill a
throw
bear?
him around.
I was thinking we could go, walk the streets and rough up some hobos.
I just want to fight. Let's fight. Next person, Lyudmila Dubanina. Her nickname is Lyuda. A 20-year-old fourth-year student in engineering and economics. Lyuda was born on an island village called Kego, which I just put in there because like the site that I was working off of for the source spent like almost all of her bio just describing the history of Kego and like the etymology of the name and
Cool.
a lot of stuff that did not seem related to this, but it seemed
So they knew
important.
nothing about
It
it.
seemed important to them, so I put it in. There are really three things that I could kind of ascertain from her bio. One, she was a good student. Two, she grew up very poor. And three, she was once shot in the leg on a hike.
That was number 3.
By Yuri D?
That was not fact number 1.
He charged at her with a geologist hammer and then shot her in the leg.
And that's what Zinger was like, oh my.
What are the most?
He
what are
just
the
shot
most,
that girl.
Be still, my beating heart.
What are the most interesting things about you? Well, I'm a good student.
I grew up poor.
I grew up poor, and I was shot in the leg. In that order.
Yeah, she was shot in the leg on a hike and just roughed it through. I think she was probably carried down. That is the one where I think she was being carried down the mountain and she was still cracking jokes, making people laugh, you know. So, yeah, cool.
Okay.
Perseverance.
She has that kind of old Russian
grit.
unflappable,
Yeah.
grit.
Yeah. So Lyuda had logged Category 2 hikes, and though being only 20, had actually led a ski expedition by herself by the time these folks went on this. She also served as the treasurer for the expedition, for the Dyatlov Pass expedition.
You think because
Because she was shot in the leg?
No, because she was poor.
Oh.
I have to get to the treasure.
They thought it was funny to let her
Let's
hold
give
the
her the
money.
treasury.
But you never seen this. It's money.
I've never seen so many ones in one place.
So many rules. Alexander Kolevatov, which I'm going to call him Sasha. A fourth-year student at...
That makes sense. What?
His
The
name
S-
is Alexander, and the nickname you land on is Sasha.
That is actually
The S, the A, the S, and the A are silent.
it's
It's
that
right in the middle of the name.
That actually is, in Slavic languages, Sasha is the nickname for Alexander.
Yeah, well, from here on out, I will be referring to him as Alex.
It's going to be too confusing because I
seems
think there's
more
actually
natural.
also an Alex
Yeah,
somewhere.
well, there's already 2 Yuris.
I'm not calling them
His
both
nickname
Yuri.
is
There's
Debbie.
3.
There's 3 Yuris?
Yeah.
Okay, we got Yuri D, and then...
And then
Well, I haven't
Sasha.
gotten to the other 2 Yuris
Right,
yet. Yeah. A fourth-year student at UPI Nuclear Physics, Sasha,
Alex.
had kind of a crazy life. A sickly child. Sasha's father had a good job as a financial director. The bio that I read said that most people like his father were killed in 1937, and then did not elaborate. I didn't. I had to look it up. That's when one of Stalin's big purges was. But Sasha's father wasn't killed. He was reassigned to a gulag to be a financial director of a factory in Tavda. So he was not a prisoner, but he was living in a gulag. And then in 1941, the Germans came into town and set up camp where Sasha's family were living. But things were still decent. They were still getting through, you know. Things weren't great, but they were surviving.
He wasn't shot in the leg.
Yeah, and then shortly after that, Sasha's father was found dead on a railway.
Jeez.
And then Sasha's family were left destitute. So things got hard. None of that's relevant, but that's just pretty crazy. Like, man, that's
It's hard
insane.
to make jokes on that one.
Yeah, it's just crazy, dude. I mean, it will be kind of not that specifically, but like it speaks to the character of these people.
Yeah.
Which I'll get to after these bios. Here's a quote from Sasha's bio to illustrate what a task the research for this episode was, because this site was, I think the the person that runs this site has written a couple books about Dyatlov Pass, but the site was in Russian originally, clearly, and then it was translated to English. And I don't know, maybe they just have different like journalistic sensibilities. But anyway, the quote is, Sasha didn't have good grades. He had high score in German language only. How come he knew German and English well? No idea, unquote.
That is okay.
So,
They have their journalistic mantra is to not ask questions.
yeah, I don't know.
Ask questions but never answer them.
Never answer them.
Also, it had not mentioned that he knew how to speak English before that sentence. Anyway,
Also, you don't hear how come used that much in journalism.
How come he knew English? I don't know. No idea, actually.
How come they broke into Watergate?
I didn't even have an idea for why he knew English and German.
For how come he knew
English
and
and German so well. In any case, Sasha seemed to be an average performer in most things. Also, it doesn't seem like that big of a leap. Like, Germans had set up camp and were, like, occupying the town he lived in.
Maybe that's why.
I have, like, an idea why he might speak German, you know? Alright, anyway. In any case, Sasha seemed to be an average performer in most things, but ended up in a very good situation as a scientist, possibly due to some connections through his late father.
That seems kind of a drag to have your bio be so have so many tragic things, and you still come out pretty average.
Yeah, well, he
usually the stories are like, oh man, he had a hard childhood, but then he like was the best hockey player in the world.
Yeah, he went for. I said this. Yeah, he went for nuclear physics, so he ended up in a pretty good situation. But yeah, it was like, hey, he didn't really get that good of grades. People didn't really have much to say about him.
Most of C pluses and B minuses.
Yeah,
he knew German though.
He knew German. How come? No idea.
How come? No idea. The New York Times.
At the time of the incident, Sasha had logged 5 UPI hikes up to a Category 2.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So nice middle of the road hiker.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty average.
Reached the middle category.
An average number.
The average number of UPI hikes in this route. Next is Yuri, the second Yuri number 2. Yuri Krivonishenko, which his nickname was Gregory.
They don't know how to do nicknames.
A UPI graduate with a major in construction and hydraulics. Although his friends called him Yuri, his real name was Gregory, so I flipped it. His nickname was Yuri, but his real name was Gregory.
Okay. Because they're like, we don't have enough Yuris.
So we have Igor, we have Xena, we have Yuri D, we have Alex, and we have Greg.
Sasha. And we have Greg. So his real name was Gregory, so I am calling him Greg. Yuri is like the not like Slavic, it's not a transliteration I don't think, but it's like Gregory's a Christian name, and I guess they just were like, if your name's Gregory, your name's actually Yuri. That's going to be your Slavic name.
Okay.
Yeah. Known for always... Oh, yeah, okay, let's see. Greg came up from a well-off family and was a real funny guy. Known for always joking around and performing with his mandolin for his friends. Greg was actually once arrested for singing in public in a town where it was apparently illegal to sing in public.
He lived in Footloose.
Seriously.
Hey, you can't be funny. Stop being funny. Stop dancing. Stop singing.
Like, how did he find himself in that town? Did he go there specifically for that reason?
His car broke down. He said, I brought my mandolin. I'm going to liven up this town.
Greg had 6 logged UPI hikes. Besides that, there's nothing super notable about Greg, except that his clothes were radioactive when they found his body. All right, moving on.
Just moving on from that?
It's an asterisk.
Right, and he was radioactive.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so...
Also that he was slightly better than Alex.
Yeah. Yes, he at least played the mandolin.
Yeah, he had something.
Well, and he did one more hike.
Oh, I needed one more hike, that's true. Up to Category 2 as well. I think Igor was the only one that had done... Oh, no. Igor and one other person who we're about to talk about had done Category 3 hikes. Everyone else had done Category 2. Next hiker is Rustem Slobodin. His nickname was Rustik. and we can settle.
So Rusty.
Rusty, yeah. I didn't have a ton of information about Rusty, other than the fact that he did have a previous experience making a very difficult 180-mile trek with his father, along with 6 UPI hikes, one of which being Category 3, which he went on with Igor Dyatlov. I assume that's how they met. Rusty was a UPI graduate in engineering technology. Nice. Next up is Semyon Zolotaryov.
Simeon.
The odd man out of the group, Semyon did not attend or graduate from UPI and was the oldest member of the group by about 14 years, being 37 years old. It seems that Semyon enlisted to be in the Dyatlov group because a different trek that he was slated to go on fell through, so he needed to find another one to reach the Master of Sport certification. So everyone was going for Class 3, he was going for Master of Sport.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was a late addition. He was the older guy.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't he like in the army or something? I thought
Yeah,
I heard
I
him
think
described as like he had like tattoos and stuff.
Yeah, he'd been described as having like tattoos and gold-capped teeth.
So basically, somehow related, he looked like the bad guy from Iron Man 2.
Oh yeah, kind of. Yeah, picture that guy.
Picture him. Yeah.
Picture
Somehow
Mickey
related.
Rourke with giant electrical whips.
Yeah, that's right. So they have nickname Whiplash.
No one in the group really wanted him to come along because like they were all friends. Like it was, they were like good friends. They don't want just a rando tagging along.
Yeah.
But Igor's a nice guy, and he accepted him. So Semyon was the most experienced of the group with an impressive 24 logged hikes, although he had never done a Category 3 before.
What a lame-o.
I know.
Had he even ever gone after a bear with a hammer?
Had you ever even shot a woman before?
You ever been sickly or poor?
Finally, Yuri number 3, Yuri Yudin. Yuri Yudin was the sole quote-unquote survivor of the Dyatlov Pass Incident by virtue of having to quit the hike early due to health issues, which is why I said it's kind of 10, but 9.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so he logged out early.
He had 6 logged hikes, including 1 Category 3 hike.
Wow. That's impressive because he was kind of a sickly dude too. Right?
Yeah, he it was rheumatism, and he also had some kind of heart defect.
Yeah.
Which, I would
But he
imagine
did
make things difficult.
Yeah. But he did a Cat 3. Not even Simeon did that.
No, and he was Whiplash.
He was better than Whiplash.
Okay, so that's the overview of the hikers. And I wanted to do this because, like, these guys are really competent. Like, very tough, smart people. They know what they're doing. And, like, this is in the 50s in Soviet Russia. Like, they weren't, like, wearing, like, Patagucci back then. You know what I mean? Like, the equipment was cumbersome, janky. Like, they wore, like, hand-sewn cloth covers on their boots. Some of them had to, like, tie their boots to their skis when they were going through. And then, like, they had a camping stove, which there are camping stoves today. They would do competitions for who could put it together the fastest, and the winner had a time of, like, 1 hour and 2 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a good travel stuff.
No, yeah. So it took forever. Like, like,
Nothing was easy.
the hikes were extremely difficult, and then, like, even everything, all that stuff made it even more difficult. So these people were, again, intelligent, exceptionally experienced in their sport, hyper competent, and they're not strangers to persevering under extreme conditions. One of them was shot on a hike. One of them was by a viper on a hike.
One of them
Igor was attacked by a rag of horses.
Maybe it was a flock of horses.
or whatever.
Or a band of horses.
Which
Stud of horses.
which animal is it where it's called a congress?
Crows?
I think
That's
that's
that's a
murder,
murder.
Was it penguins?
I'm on it.
I want to say penguins. It's some kind of bird. Pterodactyls.
Congress of pterodactyls.
User, I say we should pass a law that takes the P out of pterodactyl.
Or adds another.
I say we need 2 P's in pterodactyl. I'm gonna say penguin.
Think it's penguin? A congress of penguins? That'd be fun.
That'd be really fun.
My internet signal's not good down here.
What are you trying to say?
What you
The,
trying to say?
the internet signal.
This is my bedroom, sir.
Ravens.
Really? Oh, man. I almost said ravens. Okay.
I'm so close.
Okay, it's Murder of
yeah.
Crows, Congress of
Ravens.
Ravens.
Yeah. Anyway, so the hike.
Congress of Ravens would be a rad band name.
That is pretty good.
Pretty-
Congress of Ravens.
We should make a new podcast and call it that. Congress of Ravens.
Anyway, yeah, so these guys can hang. That's what I'm trying
Okay.
to say. Yeah. The hike. Like I said, the hikers were all attempting to reach level 3 hiker/skier in the Soviet Union,
Except for Simeon.
except for Semyon, who was going through Master of Sport certification. He wanted to win the Super Bowl of hiking and skiing,
Nice.
personally, by himself.
Except it's way less pomp and circumstance.
I didn't find a ton of info on what everything you need to be class 3, but it seems you need to do a logged hike of about 300 kilometers, 180 miles, and at least about 60 of that needs to be in difficult terrain. I don't know what the exact definition of difficult terrain is or was.
Probably
But this-
most of Russia.
Probably. This hike was in the Ural Mountains in the middle of winter. So, I mean, you can imagine hiking in Park City right now.
Yeah.
And it's like May. Or not May, April.
Yeah.
Actually, it's March.
When is it?
Right now, it's March.
We should cover our bases and list all the months to cover whenever someone could possibly listen to this.
I
Okay.
think of it
And
already
it's
as being-
January. And it's July.
I'm talking about right now, but I think of it as being April already right now. But this takes place in January, late January,
Right.
maybe February. Yes, and so another thing that separates this mystery from Yuba 5 is that because they're doing a logged hike and it needs to be verified that they did it, they have to keep very diligent records. They have to record the
Right.
whole thing. So this isn't a thing where it's like, we have no, I mean, they, like we said in that episode, one of them might have been out there for close to 3 months, and we have absolutely no idea what happened in 3 months.
Yeah.
This, we have records of what they were doing and thinking and whatever was going on up until the day before they died.
Yeah.
Do they have a log entry every day, or does it have to be more detailed than that?
Every day. And it seems, sometimes, I read a lot of the diary entries, and sometimes it definitely seems like they're just exhausted and they're definitely doing the bare minimum. It's 2 sentences, and then
Yeah.
sometimes they're doing,
They did include at some points, different. I don't know. They had fun. They would document different jokes, or if somebody got caught on fire a little bit while putting together the stove,
yeah.
stuff like that.
I love the idea of telling a joke so funny it gets put in the official log for the hike.
It will be remembered forever. The state needs to know about this.
Yeah.
I'll win Master of Comedy.
Yuri told knock joke at the expense of America.
The hikers took a train down to the town of Ivdal, and from there took a truck to the village of Vizhai, where they would find their starting point.
Cool.
They arrived to the village January 25th. So, for the actual incident, I've broken it down day by day. January 25th, the hikers arrive in Vizhai via truck.
And is that the final city or the final town until the frontier?
Yeah, exactly.
Did they allow music in this town? Singing in public?
This is not where he was arrested, so
Okay.
we don't know that they did not allow it. Here they rested for a day. They got supplies. They ate a bunch of loaves of bread. Normal stuff that you just do. And then they also sent some postcards back to their family or whatever, just saying, "Hey, we're here in Vizhai."
What's up?
Yeah.
Dancing.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. One of them is I guess he just left in a rush out of excitement or whatever, and he didn't say bye to his family. So in the postcard he says, "Sorry, I didn't say bye. I just got carried away." But we vexed it.
What a time! Without even landlines really being around, you could just leave home because you're in a rush, and they don't hear from you for a week after. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no kidding. And I mean that had to happen somewhat frequently. You
Oh,
just
yeah.
don't know where someone is.
Yeah, I assume I'll get a postcard in 2 weeks.
They knew they were going on the trek. He just didn't say bye. Anyway, so January 27th, after some rest and preparation, the group begins their trek. January 28th, Yuri Yudin has to turn around and abort the hike due to his poor health. The boys apparently joke around about it in a way that Xena feels is rude because she's a nerd. According to the diaries,
She's a narc. She was a hall monitor for sure.
which I do like that detail because, you can picture just it. This is a group of it's a group of 7 guys and 2 girls, and they're almost all of them they're good friends except for Semyon, who's a weirdo. But
Yeah, odd man out.
it's you totally do that if a friend of yours is
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
suffering horrible, he has to turn around because of disease. You're
give him a
like,
hard-
oh, okay, I couldn't
Because of
handle it.
disease.
All right, pansy.
Is your disease acting up? Yeah, Yuri's leg fell off.
According to the diaries, this was the most favorable weather of the trip on this day, with the temperature only being 17 degrees Fahrenheit.
Jeez Louise.
Reasonably sunny. Yeah, pretty cold. A negative
What a
8
nice day.
Celsius. January 29th, Yuri Doroshenko's birthday. His 21st birthday.
Now, Yuri Doroshenko, did you say he's the sickly one who had to leave?
No, he's Yuri D. The one that charged the bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Geologist hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that guy. Okay. I lose track.
Yuri the Hammer.
You're really crazy.
He turned 21 this day. The group reaches the Ospia River and continues to hike along the bank, with men alternating turns cutting a trail through the snow. They're on skis. They take breaks every 70 minutes, which translates to about every 2 or 3 kilometers, which is just under 2 miles.
So we can probably assume, since this is like, frontier and it's the dead middle of winter, you're probably gonna it's really treacherous terrain. I assume like really tall snowbanks, and I imagine it's just a slog the whole way through.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even going 2 miles an hour.
How did they land on 70 minutes?
I don't know. I thought that too. I don't understand. I thought, is there a different system of keeping time for Soviets?
Yeah, like our hours are longer.
Western longer hours.
You can only handle 60 minutes. Try 70.
I wonder if it was like maybe they had a set length of time they were going to be hiking, and they just divided that into
that could be
equal segments that just came out to 70 minutes.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
At this point, they're hiking into Mansi territory. So Mansi is that's the sort of native people of the area. Yeah, they're very nomadic. They're like Bedouins, but in the Ural Mountains.
Fun.
Seeing Mansi signs along the trees. It is now about 9 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 13 Celsius. January 30th. The group continues its hike along the river. The morning temperature is 1 degree Fahrenheit, negative 17. The night temperature is negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 26. Yeah, it's getting cold. From the diaries, you begin to feel the group's exhaustion, both from the intense exertion and the cold. This is where I was talking about, where it's like they're starting to be like a sentence or two, and usually it's about how tired they are.
Which is not really what you want when you submit it to basically be given a medal for how awesome you are.
Mm-hmm. And they're only 2 days in. It's the 30th of January.
Imagine they submit the report, and whoever's in charge of handing out the certifications are like, "What snowflakes? They're so tired.
You're denied for
negative
suffering,
1 degree.
Suffering too much." They get off the Mansi Trail for a bit. They set up camp. That night, Greg sleeps too close to the stove and ends up burning his mittens, his quilted jacket, and his trousers. Yeah. Xena reports that there is, quote, a lot of cursing.
And they took a photo of it. Because they didn't just have their journal, they had actually
cameras.
a camera or two. Yeah, so you can actually go online and you see the pictures they took, and there's one of Greg.
Cool.
Or somebody holding up his I think it was him,
Yeah.
his burnt
Yeah.
coat or something.
Yeah.
But he's smiling in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're,
they're having a good time.
they're kids.
They're young. Yeah.
Bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very well documented. I mean, it does look like a good time. They're all happy in the pictures, goofing around.
Getting burned.
Getting burned. January 31st, the group gets back on the Mansi Trail and actually encounters a deer hunter. Seems like a Mansi deer hunter. They follow his tracks for a while until he goes off the beaten path by himself. I'm going to read an excerpt from Igor Dyatlov's diary here. Trying out new ways to clear the path. The first in line drops his backpack, skis forward for 5 minutes, comes back for a 10 to 15 minute break, and then catches up with the group. That's one way to keep laying ski tracks nonstop. Hard on the second skier, though, who has to follow the new trail with full gear on his back. We gradually leave the Ospia Valley. It's upwards all the way, but goes rather smoothly. Thin birch grove replaces firs. The end of forest is getting closer. Wind is western, warm, piercing, with speed like the draft from airplanes at takeoff. Fern, open spaces.
This guy can write.
Yeah.
I guess he had some time that night. I can't even think of setting up storage here. It's nearly 4. Have to start looking for a place to pitch the tent. We go south in the Ospia Valley. Seems this place has the deepest snow. Wind not strong, snow 1 meter 22 deep, which is 4 feet. We're exhausted, but start setting up for the night. Firewood is scarce, mostly damp firs. We build the campfire on the logs, too tired to dig a fire pit. Dinner's in the tent, nice and warm. Can't imagine such comfort on the ridge, with howling wind outside, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements. Unquote. The group reaches a highland area and the now infamous pass and prepares to start the climb. They cache food and supplies for the return trip. The plan is to traverse the pass and make camp on the other side, but due to weather conditions and reduced visibility, they deviate west toward the peak of Dead Mountain, which is not where they're trying to go. Oh, also the mountain's called Dead Mountain.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Not to gloss over.
I mean, this whole thing just sounds way more epic than I was expecting, and really more epic than I pictured being realistic.
Let's keep it real, right? They set up camp for the night in the shadows of Mount Doom.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I've actually been having to force myself not to picture this being like Lord of the Rings.
It's probably close,
Honestly.
You got a fellowship going on.
Yeah, called a fellowship.
Simeon is Gandalf, and Igor is Aragorn.
37-year-old Gandalf.
all the Yuris are the hobbits.
All the Yuris. Yeah, so it's called Dead Mountain. It's like the actual name is like a Muncie word or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The Muncie call it Dead Mountain because there's no game on the mountain.
Yeah.
So it's just useless to hunt there because there's nothing there.
Doesn't seem like an ominous,
Yeah, why don't animals go there?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a good question.
That's a
Probably 'cause
question
that's
for an
where-
ecologist, probably.
Probably where they forged the One Ring.
How come animals don't go there?
This specific mountain.
Yes. If they did realize their mistake, Dyatlov doesn't indicate it in his diary.
So they camped on the wrong mountain? Is that what you said? Or
They
They deviated west.
yes,
right?
they deviated west.
Do they have compasses, or are they using like kind of natural sign to
I'm sure
chart
they
their course?
I'm sure they have compasses, but they're probably using natural science in the actual because it's a big thing to be doing what they're doing.
Right.
and they didn't account for why they did that.
They didn't seem so. It seemed like it was just bad visibility, poor conditions, and they just made a mistake.
Oh.
So yeah, like I said, if they realized it, Igor didn't indicate that they did. But even if they had, you might think it might make sense to just ski back down to where it's more sheltered, like in the wood, because they're on the slope of a mountain right now in these horrible conditions.
Yeah.
But it's possible, totally, that Dyatlov just didn't want to lose the altitude that they fought so hard for.
Yeah,
Because
I can
it's
see that.
such a huge thing, yeah.
So just to kind of paint the picture, so as Sean said, the tree line was further down. So it's a mountain, but not like a mountain covered in forest. It was more like, I guess you could picture like a snowy sand dune, a snow dune with.
But they're above the tree line, you're saying?
I don't know
Yeah.
if they're above. Are they like above it, or are there just no trees on this mountain?
They're above the tree line.
Okay,
They're like,
above it.
I
Okay.
mean, we'll get to it, but they're like roughly a mile away from the tree line.
Okay, but it's just snow. It's just snow around them.
Yes. So they set up camp on the slope of the mountains on the mountainside for the night. This is the final entry from anyone's diary in the group. Search and discovery. Before leaving, the plan was that Dyatlov would send a telegram to the sports club as soon as they returned to Vizhai. The initial plan was that this would happen no later than February 12th. However, according to Yuri Yudin, the one that, left,
to chicken out.
had to chicken out. After the first day of the trek, Dyatlov expressed that they would probably end up taking longer than February 12th. So when February 12th came and went, and there was no telegram, it wasn't a big deal. Like, Yuri was like, oh yeah, he said it was probably going to take longer than this. However, then February 20th came along.
The sound of the storm.
it's the sound effects. But February 20th came along. That's 8 days. And that's to the point where even if they're still... I mean, like, they didn't pack for an extra 8 days. That's still a problem if that's passed by, So the family started demanding a search operation for the kids. On February 26th, searchers find the Dyatlov tent. It's covered with snow now, but it has been ripped open. But it's been ripped open from the inside.
Whoa. Because they sent a sample of it, or they had an expert come in, and judging by the seams from the cut, that's how they judged that it was cut from the inside.
Right.
But other than that, and the snow that kind of accumulated on the tent looked fine,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
it
it
didn't
wasn't.
look like
It wasn't buried under like 10 feet of snow.
and it wasn't like a whole like ramshack, like they've
Right.
been attacked or something. Like it
Yeah.
kind of, for the exception of, like it seemed like for some reason they cut open from the inside and then just left the tent. It was fine.
Right. I did see photos of the tent, and it seemed like it had just snowed since,
It just snowed a lot.
it had snowed. Yeah. Okay.
So then it's like, where is everybody?
Where's everybody? So 9 sets of footprints can be followed to a wooded area 1.5 kilometers away, which is just under a mile. These footprints are those of people wearing only one shoe, or only socks, or even just barefoot. Yeah. After about 500 meters, the tracks are covered with snow, so you can't follow them that well. Searchers find evidence of a small fire having been made underneath a Siberian pine. There they find the bodies of Yuri D. And Yuri... Oh, what are we going to call this guy? Yuri Kravchenko? That was Greg. Yeah, that was Greg. So Yuri D and Greg. They find Yuri D and Greg wearing no shoes and only dressed in their underwear. Branches on the pine were broken up to 5 meters, suggesting that at least one of the hikers had climbed up the tree.
Wow.
And, I don't know. They didn't... From what I heard, they didn't specify exactly what they meant by that, but it seemed like they could tell like he had cut himself on the branches going up.
Yeah, I think their someone's hands were like all roughed up.
And like it said like his bits of him were on the, I don't know if it was skin or hair, not like bits of him, but like I don't know if exactly like.
Oh, they found some kind of forensic evidence that
on the tree had on the tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I also think like, I don't remember which one it was. I didn't write it in the script. But like someone found like bits of like skin from one of their palms like embedded in their teeth, like they were just chewing their palms.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't know, like maybe to stay awake or something. I don't know, but
yeah.
Frostbite, like maybe it's like trying to feel something. Frostbite, maybe, I don't know.
Somehow for warmth.
Mm-hmm. Between the camp and the pine, searchers then found 3 more bodies: Zina, Rusty, and Igor Dyatlov. They died in poses suggesting they were trying to return to the tent. Their bodies were found at distances ranging 980 feet to 2,000 feet from the tree, which would have been like most of the way back to the tent, basically. So,
so going back a little bit, if either Greg or Yuri D tried to climb the tree, I mean you would assume it was either to get a good look at something or to get away from something.
To get away from something,
right. Yeah.
What pose would you die in suggesting you were trying to get somewhere else? Like,
I assume...
I think like maybe like facing like the tent, like in the direction back towards the tent, maybe.
Yeah. I imagine like if you're walking and you collapse, you're probably gonna, like your head's gonna be facing where you're going and your arm's probably gonna be also pointing to where you're going.
It just seems so staged when you're...
There's also a chalk.
Seems a little dramatic.
There was a chalk outline around it in the snow.
I mean, I feel like if you're on your way somewhere and you die, like, you kind of just collapse into whatever position you collapse into.
Well, how often do you collapse, Colby? I'll collapse now. I'll show you.
Yeah, do it.
I don't got nowhere to go.
I didn't think so.
Give me a tent. I'll collapse in that direction.
Where was I? Oh yeah, I was gonna go over this. So remember, like, it's a mile, almost a mile out to the Siberian pine, and then 2,000 feet back. I think Igor Dyatlov made it 2,000 feet back towards the tent. Remember, with like skis and equipment and everything, like they were going less than 2 miles an hour. So I mean, to travel this distance, like just walking in the snow, and you remember I said like shoes. The snow without shoes, like the snow's almost 4 feet deep, was what Igor said.
That'll take a long time.
It takes a long time to do that, yeah. And I mean, like, I would imagine in those circumstances, every step you take is a decision to take one more step, you know, the further you go from the tent.
So you could see easily how somebody could die just going, well, I was going to say going just a mile, but it would have been 2 miles because they would have had to run to the trees and then back. And who knows how long they were at the trees for.
Right. They made a small fire.
Yeah, so long enough to do that.
Yeah. May 4th, the remaining 4 bodies are found under 13 feet of snow in a ravine which was 250 feet further into the woods past the pine. 3 of them were dressed better than the others, with Lyuda wearing Yuri's badly burned trousers, her left shin and foot wrapped up in a torn jacket. So likely, I mean, like... And I think there were some other people wearing, like, other people's clothes, which might suggest, like, after they had died and they realized they were dead, they have to... Well, now I gotta survive, so you gotta tear off their clothes or whatever, yeah. Or
so
whatever.
The last ones they found maybe survived
longer. Yeah.
They were in the opposite direction of the tent?
Yeah. So they went another 250 feet away from the tent. So maybe they were all together at the pine, and then, like, for whatever reason, 3 of them made the decision to try to go back to the tent.
They made it 250 feet?
Well, the other ones maybe made it one. I don't. Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like, it seems like if they were just trying to keep going, they would have made it further than 250 feet, right? Maybe they were in the ravine trying to get shelter. I don't know.
Or they fell down the ravine.
Yeah, that's what I would assume, because if it was nighttime, you would assume it's nighttime.
Oh yeah,
And they were running and they didn't see it.
maybe. So investigation. An autopsy was conducted as soon as the initial 5 bodies were found. No injuries were found that would have led to their death, so the conclusion was the hikers died of hypothermia. Reasonable enough. Mm-hmm. One hiker had a small crack in his skull, but the coroner felt it was far from fatal. Which, I've known people that gotten fractures in their skull.
Not to brag.
They didn't
How?
die. Fell off a cliff.
Okay.
Checks out.
Yeah.
No further questions.
I know some cliffs.
However, when an autopsy was conducted on the 4 hikers found 2 months later
In the ravine.
in the ravine,
The Ravine 4?
The Ravine
as we're
4.
calling them now?
yes, the Ravine 4,
That's a cool band name.
things became more confusing. 3 hikers had fatal injuries. Nikolay, which I'm realizing I think actually I forgot to include in the list.
Yeah, that sounds new.
I wasn't counting initially.
Okay, well, it's Nikolay. I actually do remember this guy, but
Give us a little bio.
His father was a French communist, so he's got a super French last name.
Oh.
Historically, his family was an aristocratic one, but I assume that didn't really mean a whole lot in the Soviet Union. And he had hiking experience. Yeah,
There you go.
He had hiking experience roughly on par with the rest of the
Okay.
group.
Okay.
Yeah. Nikolay had major skull damage, and Lyuda and Simon both had major chest fractures. According to the coroner, the force needed to cause these injuries would have needed to be comparable to getting hit by a car. However,
Not falling into a ravine.
yeah. However, none of the bodies showed any external injuries. Lyuda was missing her tongue, eyes, lips, and some facial tissue, and a skull fragment. Simon was missing his eyes, and Sasha was missing his eyebrows, which is kind of a random.
Eyebrows.
I don't even know why
Eyebrows is
they
kinda weird.
Yeah, I don't know why they
What's that?
even included that.
The other stuff I could see, like animals eating their soft bits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But eyebrows.
Eyebrows?
Seems kind of strange.
Yeah, that like shaved off or like the whole patch of skin was torn off.
Which does
I don't
also
know.
remind me, because it would make sense for animals to eat them, but remember, like, this is a mountain infamous for no animals being
Yeah,
anywhere.
but they went down to. Okay, so the Siberian pine was some like part of the way up this mountain, right?
It seems like it.
And their tent was above that tree line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did try to really pin down some geographic locations, but it was kind of hard.
Yeah.
But as far as I can tell, it seems like it was on Dead Mountain. Anyway, journalists who had access to the inquest claimed that it states the following. 6 of the group members died of hypothermia and 3 of fatal injuries. There were no indications of other people nearby on Dead Mountain, apart from the 9 travelers. Remember, they found 9 sets of footprints, didn't find anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The tent had been ripped open from the inside.
Because that was a theory at first. Was like, oh, maybe it was the Mansi tribe that attacked them.
Right.
But there wasn't any other
Right.
footprints. And
But
There's
hold
no
on.
no injuries.
Let me just.
No sign.
We're talking like 4 feet of snow right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard conditions. Like, how are there footprints at all? Like,
I imagine like they probably were pretty deep at first, and then it snows, and the footprints were just shallower.
okay. And then how would you? I mean,
Also, they also might be using footprints to also just describe the general disturbance of going through for.
yeah, but then how do
snow.
you count 9 sets of those specifically? Like, if I'm following somebody, I'm probably stepping in their footprints.
Right.
You know.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
But we've all walked in snow before.
You don't know me.
I don't really try to count footprints as I go.
Well,
Would you do it?
But that is a good point, though. Like, when I walk, like when I'm working and I walk through, I do follow the other person's set of footprints. When
I
I'm
think that's a
following them.
deliberate action. I think if you're like fleeing, you're not really.
True enough.
trying to
Well, I will get to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anyway, some of this is not adding up to me.
this seems shady.
The victims had died 6 to 8 hours after their last meal. So it would have been the middle of the night, yeah.
Yeah, we're okay.
Traces from the camp showed that all group members left the campsite of their own accord on foot. Some levels of radiation were found on one victim's clothing, which was Greg. To dispel the theory of an attack by indigenous people, they said like there was no The fatal injuries could not have been caused by human beings because the force was too strong and no soft tissue was damaged in conjunction with it.
And the Mansi were not aggressive people.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. They also,
Yeah. And I don't know what you're getting to, but there's also, didn't they find evidence somehow? They determined that they didn't run out of the tent.
That's what I was going to bring out. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, really quick, finish up this list. Release documents contain no information about the condition of the skiers' internal organs, and there were no survivors, obviously. Which you would, I don't know. I mean, they do examine internal organs in autopsies usually.
Yeah.
So you'd think there would, I don't know, there'd be something in the report about that.
Well, I mean, if there was nothing remarkable about them, then...
I think they would just say there's nothing remarkable about them.
Oh, so you're saying there's no details whatsoever?
No.
Yeah, well, maybe that's just their way of saying there's nothing remarkable about
Maybe.
them.
Why waste the pen?
I would tell you if there was anything interesting. Additionally, there were no signs of an avalanche at the scene that they could tell. Things like broken trees or scattered debris, and there was only a shallow layer of snow covering the initially found 5 bodies. In the 100 expeditions held since the incident, no one has reported any conditions that could lead to an avalanche. And finally, the footprints found support that the hikers were not running in a panic, but actually walking at a normal pace in a single direction.
So not fleeing.
Doesn't seem like
Doesn't
that.
seem like, yeah, not in a panic.
Ultimately, the conclusion was that the hikers were met with, quote, a compelling natural force, unquote, which drove them to their doom.
Compelling unnatural force?
Natural.
Or compelling natural force?
Yeah.
Okay.
There also may have been aliens. Okay, so now the theories.
Aliens.
So there are different theories as to what could have happened, obviously.
So, well, just to recap, what it seems like happened, the image, you just pictured 9 of them, for some reason, cutting open the tent from the inside and walking at least a mile down the mountain.
All 9 of them in the tent?
Yeah, they slept in the tent, all of them.
Okay, so there's one tent. All 9 of them are in there. Does this tent have a door?
It has a door?
They chose not to.
Like a flap. Yeah, there was a way to go out of the tent.
But they chose not to use it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
Well,
do they know that everybody exited through the?
I don't think they
know that for a
hauled
fact.
I would have assumed that they probably would have gone through both ends of it. Right, like I assume that a couple of people on the far end would probably just cut open from their end so they could just get out right away.
Could be did that. Well, I guess we don't know, but if you're maybe whatever compelling natural force was at the flap, then you would cut and go outside.
Right.
Sure.
Try to avoid
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
If for some reason they can't go out the main entrance.
That seems to be the only 2 reasonable ways that would happen. Is if either you can't, you're blocked from going out the regular way, or you want to get out so quick you don't even want to wait for the other people to get out.
You want to get out quickly, but then you walk down the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
A
the thing
mile.
too.
Yeah.
It seems like they were walking.
But they may not have had a choice.
You're in 4 feet of snow.
You're in 4 feet of snow. You're shoeless. What are you gonna sprint?
I know.
on top of it.
I wanted to find more details about that conclusion, but I just couldn't find any.
It's hard because you have to really take the autopsy report at face value. That, you don't really have much more than that report to go off of, and you got to wonder how did they come to their conclusions?
But okay, so these hikers, they slash their way out of the tent. They're escaping the compelling natural force. They're experienced hikers. They probably know the most efficient way I'm going to get to safety is not to try to run. We've all tried to run in 4 feet of snow,
Yeah,
and
very
true.
they did what they do, and they just
Right.
progressed to their destination.
Very true.
Very true.
Oh, whoops. I skipped ahead. Okay, yes. So there's obviously a lot of theories. Because, we know how they died. The cause of death. But we just don't know why they were out there. Some people think infrasound. People have suggested infrasound. Some apparently have deemed the topography of the area as being capable of producing infrasound if the wind conditions are right, which...
For our listening audience, can you explain so they know?
Yeah, for the
what
sake of the
infrasound-
people outside of this room.
Because
We all know what it is.
We all know what it is.
I listen to it on my headphones.
So, infrasound is basically a really low frequency noise, which is so low that you will not consciously know that you're hearing it. But it has been found to produce feelings of dread or anxiety in people. But it's never like made someone just go crazy and try to just bust out of the room before. I mean, like that is not really within the scope of what it's
Has
produced.
it ever collapsed anybody's chest?
Not to my knowledge, no.
No, doesn't mean it can't. But with that theory, like, right, it posits, like, not necessarily, I guess their idea is that, like, probably one person, rather than all 9 of them, got afflicted with infrasound and probably panicked and ran out. Mm-hmm. And then the other 8 could have gone after them, is what they would think with the infrasound theory.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and just strike the infrasound theory right off the list.
Great.
Anytime you're talking about some people getting afflicted with the infrasound,
dude, Yuri got afflicted with infrasound and had to leave early.
And it's
Yuri, there's infrasound right at the front door. We can't escape that way.
Yuri, don't look now. But there's an infrasound in the back seat.
And like I said, like there's no case of infrasound affecting someone so dramatically like that. Mm-hmm. And even if it did, like Colby brought out, these are not people that would think a good idea would be to run out not even dressed for the sake of this hiker. If anything, they'd say they'd get freaking geared up.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Put on some shirts.
And no, because like if we go out there without gearing up, we're all gonna die.
Yeah. And I would assume I assume 2 people or maybe 3 would have gone after the other one, not like
the
all
entire
of them.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have anywhere to put this little fact, but I just like it that Igor Dyatlov he was a man of rules and policies, and one of his policies was that at the end of every day, when you got in the tent, you had to take off your boots and wash your feet, regardless of if you had warm water or not. I like that. That's a man that's been in a lot of tents with a lot of stinky feet.
True.
There's no excuses.
That's a policy you learn to make the hard way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have had any boots on. But also, I don't know if it was normal to sleep in your boots anyway at the time.
I don't know. I wouldn't imagine, but I don't know.
Yeah. Aliens / glowing orbs.
Glowing orbs.
Why glowing?
Well, it's nighttime. You can't see the ones that aren't glowing.
What's the point if they're not glowing?
All right. Continue.
Yeah. You feel real dumb now, huh?
We found traces of glowing.
Glowing infrasound in his pocket.
So there were hikers actually about 50 kilometers north of Dyatlov Pass. They reported seeing strange, bright, glowing orange orbs in the sky the night of the incident. And additionally, residents of Vizhai actually reported similar strange sights all through January and February of 1959. So some people think it's aliens.
Aliens.
That's my favorite so far.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know.
Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they were running away from aliens.
Maybe. Hey guys, War of the Worlds.
Cut the tent. Yes, the other one is just general Soviet shenanigans. So one theory is that there was weapons testing or some other kind of secret operation going on up there. Maybe stuff with radiation, which people are like, Greg's clothes are radioactive,
It might be why Dead Mountain was so dead.
It could also be why Dead Mountain was so dead. True.
Radioactive.
And maybe the group saw something that they weren't supposed to, or maybe they were feared to have seen something they weren't supposed to, and the KGB came right after them.
The KGB hiked out there. Come on.
Or whatever.
No, they have like a rec center out there. They're in there already. Hey, you guys can't see this.
A similar theory is that the campsite fell within the bounds of a Soviet parachute mine exercise. The hikers were woken by explosions and exited the tent in a panic for shelter of the woods. But there were hikers 50 kilometers away. I feel like they would also report. Like there was also a ton of explosions going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they were too distracted by the glowing orbs to hear explosions.
Those orbs.
Orbs.
Also, there would be definite evidence of explosions.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if
They're
an
just setting
explosion
off
got
parachute
you,
mines.
you wouldn't have you would have external damage to go along with your collapsed chest cavity.
Right.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
The things you don't know about parachute orbs or parachute mines could fill a book.
That is true.
Katabatic winds, which I think is the most realistic theory.
Katabatic winds. Okay, for our listening audience.
For our listening audience,
We all know what it is.
we all obviously know what katabatic winds are, but for anyone listening, katabatic winds are basically just really rare, extremely violent winds that are not a hurricane or tornado, just super violent winds. They can be produced in like very specific topographical conditions. It happened in Switzerland with a similar sort of landscape. But the winds would be so violent that staying in the tent would be impossible. And maybe you would go down to the woods for shelter from the winds, maybe.
I don't see why.
Even in Igor's diary, he did make a note of how particularly bad the winds were the day before they died.
I don't see why being outside in the woods would be better than being in the tent still.
I don't know.
Also,
Because the tent didn't blow over.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was partially collapsed, but it was still just a tent.
Oh.
Yeah, it was partially collapsed because of like the snow that fell on it.
If you go to like a little bit denser woods, maybe it'll block the winds a little bit better than just a
That
tent
would be a
would.
good reasoning, but
Even
there's
then-
a lot that doesn't explain.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you would still have time to like dress up and everything, right?
I don't know.
Because
Because
like
they can
worst case
be
scenario,
pretty sudden, but
worst case scenario, like the tent falls over, the tent's falling over. Like
Yeah,
you're
and then I'm
not
out
gonna-
there
you're not-
unprepared anyway.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're not gonna die. If
yeah,
the tent falls
yeah,
over.
the tent wasn't like blown away like a mile or anything. It's just
Yeah.
partially collapsed.
So
So
I don't have to.
And you would go out the front flap or whatever.
yeah, you still wouldn't have to cut up. Yeah.
It's the orbs, man. The orbs were at the front of the tent, and they said, "Get out of
Yeah, it
here!
was
This is
the-
our tent now."
Maybe it was all of these are true.
Yeah.
People were setting off parachute mines. The orbs were outside the tent. It was really windy.
The KGB said, "This is our rec center. Get out of here."
Have you heard the song "Ghost Mountain" by the Unicorns?
No.
Because this reminds me a lot of that song. You'll have to give it a listen.
Okay.
Dyatlov Pass. This makes sense.
I also wrote down. Oh yeah, paradoxical undressing. Some people have explained the lack of clothing as paradoxical undressing, which is when you die of hypothermia, or when you get hypothermia, you're starting to get to the end. People will feel super hot,
Take off all their
Right.
clothes.
take off all their clothes, which does happen. But again, these people are so experienced and so competent, and also so good under pressure, that I would think that they would not take off their clothes even if they felt burning hot.
Yeah.
And also, it's not like they found their clothes like
Right.
You
I was
know
gonna
what I
say
mean?
like you
Yeah.
kind of like have a trail of clothes, or like their clothes would be around them somewhere.
Right, exactly. And I would think if these people, if it happened with these people, then it would happen with every single person that's ever died of hypothermia. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And well, the fact that like some of the clothes were mismatched on people, like makes me think like
Yeah.
that they probably either grabbed him in a hurry or
Right.
took him off somebody
Right.
rather than
Or both.
shedding him. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I think the boots were all left in the tent. They didn't put their boots on to begin with.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody had both their boots on.
I don't
So-
think so.
If you're leaving without your boots, something sudden and quick is happening.
It's
Yeah,
you'd think
It's
so.
not katabatic winds.
Maybe it was a Yeti.
Oh yeah, some people also think it was a Yeti.
Like say like a Yeti like pops up out of nowhere at the front of their tent, and then they're like, "Oh my goodness!" and they cut out the back
Yeah,
of the tent.
alright.
They
I
run
can do
away.
that. Sure.
A Yeti.
Yeah.
I could do it.
I mean, I can't categorically rule out Yetis.
Yeah.
So it was reported initially that they had written that they'd seen a Yeti in their diary. However, what it was they had made on the last day like this kind of like comical newspaper leaflet thing, you know, like
Like
the
a-
Onion,
like
like
a-
the Onion.
Like a fun like newsletter for their trip.
Yeah, and it's presented like a little like the Onion newspaper where it's like and one of those things was like the Yeti is real. It lives right here at the Ural Mountains next to Mount whatever it is, Mount Doom.
Yeah.
Dead mountain.
Dead Mountain. Dead Doom Mountain.
And there is a picture, kind of a weird picture that people say could have been a Yeti. I'll actually pull it up right now, and we'll cut out this silence. But
So it's a case of like they make a tongue-in-cheek reference to a Yeti being real, and then they have a photo of like a kind of an odd-looking whatever. And so some people just take that and run with it.
it's that photo right there.
That kind of just looks like a guy in the background who
Yeah.
went over there to pee or something.
Yeah, and also the way that it's like, it's so dramatically staged, and like the focus is right in front of the camera to keep this blurry. I think it was just a fun little picture they took.
Probably, yeah. But speaking of pictures, one thing people point to support the orb theory was one of the photos that they found that was kind of a blurry. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like one or two blurry looking dots that have kind of like that kind of ghosting effect that looks like, oh, this bright circle was moving at the time.
Oh, interesting.
But again, that could be anything.
Yeah.
Though, like
I
that
don't
could
know
be
enough about
something
film to know what happens with film.
Yeah, right. It could have
Honestly.
been a weird shutter speed, or the camera was moving fast, and they took a picture of their fire.
Right.
But some people look at that and they're like, oh, it's the glowing reports of glowing orbs at the time, and then there's a picture of like that could be an orb. Maybe they took a picture of it, and then they died, or something.
Right. So the official explanation at the time was an avalanche, and then they reinvestigated this again like a couple years ago, and they said, yeah, it was an avalanche. But like we've said, there's not a whole lot of like actual evidence to support that it could have been an avalanche.
Yeah, I saw a video the other day, and I forgot who it was from, but they actually said why it could have been it could have been a slab avalanche is what it was, and what they said was
Slavalanche.
a slab
I was
avalanche,
just about to say that.
a slab of horses,
Slab of horses.
and what they posited was, and this is something that Igor and his ilk would have done was when camping on a mountain with snow on it. I guess if they're to mitigate the wind, you would kind of dig into the snow to create a visual for our audio listeners. So say your mountain's going at an
He's
angle.
touching his fingers together.
That's right.
Now they're separating.
Separating at an angle. You would carve out like kind of a square block into the snow, and then you would build your tent there, and that would mitigate some of the wind coming at you, I guess. And they assume, well, they said in the video that like they were actually probably camping higher in the mountain than they said, but they didn't really present any evidence for that. But if they were, then the threat of an avalanche would have been actually higher, and it's possible with the snow and the way the mountain was, they could have looked shallower than they thought. Anyway, in those conditions, a slab of snow could have possibly slid onto the tent from above because they carved into the snow. And that amount of force, if it fell on, say, Simeon, that amount of snow, like a whole block of it falling directly onto you, probably could be enough to crush ribs.
Yeah, but then if that happens to you, you're not getting out of the tent and walking, how many, 2,000 feet to the Siberian pine?
It was about a mile to the Siberian pine.
And then walking
further.
250 feet further to fall into a ravine with, you've just had like a car land on your chest.
Well, this is Whiplash, so who knows how tough he is.
True.
Yeah.
But he was one of them. Like, he wasn't the only one that had like a...
Yeah,
broken
so
couple
what
of-
is the idea that like the snow would have moved their tent like way further down the mountain or something?
And
No, I don't think it would have...
intact.
I don't think it would have moved it. The person said that they just, the investigators, for some reason, they the tent was actually higher than it was reported.
Oh, I see.
And I think they just if you look at these pictures, then it's higher. But I think it's one of those things. It's like you can just see what you want to see.
Kind of. So I did see also. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I just forgot to put it in the script. But I had read that with the angle how the tent was oriented to the mountain, it wouldn't have made sense for them to cut on the side of the tent that they did if it was an avalanche, because that would have been towards
the avalanche.
Also,
Possibly.
I've seen plenty of videos of avalanches. You don't still have a tent there afterwards.
Very true. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was still set. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I call BS on that one. Not an avalanche, guys.
It was Yeti. It was Yeti. Maybe the Yeti caused an avalanche and then cleaned up after.
Let's not forget that there's radioactivity involved.
Yeah. So, actually, we should note that the 4 in the ravine, the one that's missing her tongue.
Oh yeah.
She was actually face down in a stream.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
Right. Yeah. There was a bit of a stream down there, and being face down, obviously the water could
Deteriorate.
speed up
that stuff.
decomposition. So it could have been animals, or it could have been just the decomposition of. Because I think they think it might not have been a ravine, ravine at first. I think they it looked like solid ground, and then it just collapsed under them, and then into a ravine with a stream in it or something.
Maybe.
If that happened, would there be enough snow involved to like land on them and like that?
I could see that. So some of the roofs that I clear in Park City, like that does happen where the snow will blow over to an overdraft, and sometimes you will be standing on it and you clear the snow and realize like, oh, I'm standing like 2 feet off of the roof line.
I'm not on it. Something.
Yeah, and then if that landed on you, wouldn't that be enough to like
really crush some stuff?
Yeah.
In theory, especially with that much snow in the Ural Mountains.
We should do some Mythbusters and actually test the stuff out.
Find a ravine.
Yeah, but with the radiation, I think one possible explanation would it have been like this? Was it the stove or the lantern or something? Didn't they have like lanterns or something?
They had lanterns, yeah.
Yeah, and if one like shattered and got on someone, would that create a measure of radiation?
I have no idea. I don't know how that works.
I think one of them had a nuclear bomb, didn't they?
One had a nuclear bomb.
That could have gone off.
Yeah. I think Greg had worked in a power plant like some years before. I don't know if like...
And maybe you just still had the clothing still was radioactive from it.
Maybe.
So he wasn't going to live a long, happy life either way.
Probably not. His clothes were
was
radioactive. He was
riddled
regularly
with
wearing
radiation.
them. They were his hiking clothes.
Yeah.
And only one of them was radioactive?
Yes,
I think,
only Greg.
I thought. Oh really? I thought
As far as I saw, it was only Greg.
I thought a couple of them had
I would think, though, in
mild radiation.
59, if they have nuclear power plants, I would think that, like, they also knew to throw your clothes away at the very least.
Yeah, you would think.
After being around it.
I could see how, like, you could forget to throw certain items of clothing away, like something...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
You just ignore the fact that it's glowing. I should throw that away. I'll do it later.
Although I did just watch Chernobyl. They did seem to underestimate. Yeah, so nothing just makes sense. And it's like, you try to zero in on an explanation, and it's always like, the fact that the tent was cut open is always the thing that it never accounts for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something was blocking the actual entrance.
You would think so. And also, the fact that they climbed up the tree means that whatever was going on was something that from a mile away they could tell was not an issue anymore. And so they tried to go back to the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get some height to see if that threat was still there. And then it seems like they saw it was okay, and then try to make it back to the tent. Yeah.
I mean, just because it's bad for hunting on Dead Mountain doesn't mean there's zero animals.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It probably just means there's not many, or it's not enough to be worth your time to go hunting there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could have been something.
But a moose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
I mean,
they didn't
let's
say
say
they
it was
found
a,
moose
Let's
tracks.
say it was a moose.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of answers all my questions right there.
Yeah.
Except for the no tracks.
Yeah.
They specifically didn't find any animal tracks.
Yeah.
They didn't say. They said they only saw the nine.
Yeah, but I still have questions about that. How did they identify it in like 4 feet of snow, 9 individual, specifically identifiable footprints tracks?
They probably just wanted
That
to
may
go
be
home.
dubious. But yes, wanted to go home. But in any case, I mean, they at least found that's how they found them. They found evidence that they had been moving through the snow. You'd think like a moose would leave that too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a pretty big animal.
Yeah. Or any animal big
I don't
enough
know.
to pose that kind of threat.
I don't know, man. We just don't know what happened.
Yeah. And you can't discount the orbs.
It's all about the orbs.
I don't know what they would have been, but like, not saying they're aliens, but like,
Yeah.
it's just weird though. Like, there was a lot of talk of that time. People saw the orbs.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where, like we said with the Yuba County 5, like, things can go wrong very fast. And it's very, I don't know, it's very easy to create a mystery. Right? Like they know exactly what happened. And it's probably a very kind of logical explanation. But just with no records or whatever, like, we have no idea. Which is
Right.
kind of like a unsettling feeling. You know, anything can happen to you. And if you don't leave any evidence, like any records, like, people could just not know what happened.
Right. Yeah, this is another one where, I mean, you have so much detailed information and photos, and you have all the bodies and cause of death, and you still
Yeah.
just have no idea what happened.
Yeah, you just have these disparate pieces, and you just can't make them all. You can make some of them fit, but it's hard to make them all fit.
Yeah. It's messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up.
So anyway.
Yeah, that's Dyatlov Pass, Colby.
I feel so educated.
Good.
You did a great job guesting.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I
Yeah.
had a lot of fun.
I'm happy to hear that. All right, well, I guess that's it.
Yeah. That's our show.
yeah.
Thanks to everybody. I got nothing to plug.
No? Okay, that was my next question.
AmazingHorsefacts.com.
AmazingForceHacks.com. Check it out. Promo
Go there.
code somehow for...
See if it works. In fact, use promo code somehow for everything and see if it works.
Yeah, it might.
Might as well.
Yeah, you never know.
I hope we get a promo code.
Yeah,
That'd be
for
sick.
Old Navy. Free jeans.
Free jeans at Old. That's a great promo code. Just go to oldnavy.com or go to the store and just say somehow, and you'll get free jeans.
In any size. It's random.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you later.
Podcast shown and just admitted. Theme was previously stated. About to start, so glad I waited. Somehow related.